who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. My name is Lucifer, and I'm an alcoholic. Hello. Welcome to the 8 o'clock open meeting of the Lambda Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Smoking is not permitted at any time. Please turn off all cell phones and pagers or place them on mute at this time. If you have court papers to be signed, just bring them to me, or you can hand them to your neighbor. That's fine too. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are glad you are here, especially newcomers. In keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking, we ask Bruce to confine your discussion to your problems as they relate to alcoholism, or really just talk about whatever you want. Feel free to, Okay, is there anyone attending, is there anyone attending their very first A meeting, and if so, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Anyone?
My name is Sally, and I am an alcoholic. People keep telling me my halo is tilted, and I keep telling them I know that. That's how I got here. I have the honor and the privilege of introducing our speaker tonight. I have known our speaker since I first came in to Alcoholics Anonymous, and in 10 or 15 years that'll be real impressive. But tonight I'm all you got. So, our speaker demonstrates every day, for me and for many, honesty, humor, integrity, downright fierceness. And if you haven't heard his story, you have made a powerful choice in being here tonight, I assure you. Fasten your seatbelts. Bruce H.
Let me get this shit out of the way. Looks like my house. My name is Bruce. I'm alcoholic. I've been kept sober since August the 23rd of 1983. And that's because of Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course, you all know that Charles Leslie Stewart died of a heart attack today on the way to the men's meeting, who I had the privilege of being sponsored by for the last 3 years now. I will miss him. I went over to his lover's house this afternoon and sat with him for a couple of hours, and we talked about things. And he said, I said, is he being cremated? I said, is he being cremated? And he said, he believes so. And he said, do you want to be cremated? And I said, yes, that's my first choice. My second choice is I want to be eaten. And he laughed, which is the point. Laughter is very important in sobriety because life can be very unhappy. And there's 12 steps and good laughter and lots of sarcasm, which is my favorite, and hateful sarcasm. And the reason for that, and I will go in. I was born May the 23rd, 1954, at Baylor Hospital. It used to be Florence Nightingale, but they tore it down. And then I was reared in University Park, no pun intended. And my father was a lawyer. How about you? Oh, you like that one. And my mother, a housewife. And my parents were both 33 years older than I. And my mother and father were very odd. I say to people, my parents didn't have children; they owned children, and we were like property. And at least that's what it felt like from where I come from. And my mother is very maternal, and my father should have never had children. He was not emotionally capable and was not there, and he was very hard and harsh. And he showed his affection by writing a check or giving cash. But, you know, that's I don't know. Anyway, and so, and he is dead now. He died 3 years ago. And that's okay. I've done the inventories, and I've worked through a lot of my family issues, situations. I have an older brother who's 2 years older, and I remember I see photographs of myself as a child up until about 5 years old, and I look happy up until 5 years, and then I look terrorized. And I was. My father was partly alcoholic. I don't know how alcoholic. Alcoholism runs in my family. My aunt died with 31 years of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous about 5 or 6 years ago. And maybe longer. I don't remember. And we don't know much about the other side of the family, but my grandmother acted very much like someone who was on a very long dry drop, and she was a strange woman, and cold and calculating, and anyway, my mother started studying astrology, and they started going to psychiatrists and psychoanalysts. And I remember at the age of 9 going into the bathroom and taking the red pills out of the medicine cabinet and taking a whole bunch of them. They were Secanols. And I don't know why I took them. Maybe I saw them take them. I don't remember. But that was the first time I ever took. Now, they had parties all the time, and I remember them drinking scotch and waters and martinis, and I would go and take sips. And I never really liked the taste of alcohol. Later on, I liked the effect, obviously. And anyway, my father was very abusive towards me. He believed that I should behave like he thought he did when he was however old it was, and since I did not act that way, he would punish me and beat me and psychologically harass me and all that, you know. And I was always running away from him. You know, because the only time he ever saw me was to beat me or something. And anyway, when I was, the second all was when I was 9. And when I was 11 years old, my parents started seeing a psychiatrist who was using drug therapy. And the drug that they were using was Sandoz Laboratories LSD-25. And they started taking LSD-25 on a regular basis. And after about 6 months or so, they decided that it would be an absolute wonderful thing if it worked so wonders on them. What would it do to their children? So I'm 11 and my brother is was 13, and back then it was no blotter and no window pane and no sugar cubes. It was mixed from powder with a test tube, and then the first time I ever took it, it was really wild because later on in my life I used to do acid at least once a year to keep my head together, and or so I thought. I thought drugs were mentally enhancing. They're not, and so every other week, my father would feed me LSD out of a test tube, and then they lock all the doors so I couldn't get outside. And I would get outside because LSD 25 and outdoors really seem to go together because the trails and all the colors and all that. Inside acid was not fun. And wood and carpet only does so much. Of course, you can see the wind whirl around in colors. It's very bizarre, but then I started they started giving me too much of the stuff, and I started to have bad trips, and I remember horrific scenes of bugs and creatures from the air, and all kinds of very nightmarish things. And I told them I didn't want to do it anymore. But it didn't matter what I wanted. It's what my father wanted. Against my will, they would hold me down and shove this shit down my throat. And then I would go into these freak-out sessions. I don't know what it was. Anyway, they... late 64, I was 11 in 64, so somewhere in early 65, the psychiatrist who gave my father all this stuff went insane, and he got addicted to Ritalin, and he eventually he had his children on LSD, raped his wife, and beat her up, and then they decided that my father would be better off without my mother, so they were going to plot to kill my mother, and it was turned into this Jim Jones nightmare type of thing. But before they could kill my mother or anything, the feds, he dumped all his LSD into the trash can next door, and the lady found it and called the police, and when they figured out what it all was, they carted him and the entire family to Terrell and mental hospital. And he eventually sobered up in Alcoholics Anonymous out in California through Synanon, which eventually turned into this kind of freaky cult. Anyway, and he's dead now, thank God. And that's my LSD story. Of course, I didn't do any more LSD until about 1970, 71. Back then, it was just street acid. It was yellow sunshine and window pane and blotter and all of that. And like I said, I used to do it all the time to keep my head together. And of course, I did not like. And then let's see. Later on, late 60s, I started to come out. They didn't want me to come out or something. I don't know. And I had started playing with my mother's makeup when I was 9, and they did not like that at all. And but I did it anyway. And I tend to be really rather willful and defiant of authority, extremely defiant of authority, still am. And they decided they were going to send me to a military academy down in South Texas, and they called this man to look me over, and he said to my parents, "Absolutely not." because the reality was that as scared as I was, it would not have been yes sir. It would have been fuck you, and because that's the way I reacted to all situations. I will do whatever I want when I want, and if you don't like it, die. It didn't matter to me. I will do as and not much has changed, and I was born dyslexic. And so reading and writing and school was an anathema, and I didn't understand it. And they found out in 6th grade that I was dyslexic, and they decided they were going to send me to a school for dyslexics. So in 1967, I started into this school. Now, 4 years later, when I graduated from the school, it was unaccredited. So I entered into high school at the age of 18, where most people are graduating. And they decided to send me to a school in Arizona called Judson, which does not exist anymore. And that year, I knew I was going to go to Judson in September of '71, when I was 17, about to turn 18, and in February of '71, I was listening to the radio. And on it, they were going to have 2 gay lesbian priests from the MCC church that had just started up in Dallas. And I listened intently. And so that Sunday, I went to the MCC church because it was time for me to make my debut. And I met a couple of gay people, and of course, I was molested, but you can't molest the willing; it's not possible. And then when I turned 18, I started going. The legal drinking age in Texas back then was 18, and when I turned the legal drinking age, I was told there was a gay bar that had. Well, I didn't know. I was told there was a gay bar that I should go to. So it was called the Mars Bar. And I went. And, I had a bourbon and Coke. And I was sitting at the bar stool at the bar. And a tap came onto my shoulder. I used to smoke. And they would somebody tapped my shoulder, and I turned around, and it was she must have been about as tall as I am, and she had platinum hair and no eyebrows and sketched on. She was wearing hot pants and go-go boots and a maxi coat. Remember maxi coats that went all the way down? And she said, "Do you have a light?" And I looked up, and I had never seen anything quite like it myself, and I said, "Oh, honey, I'm home. I can do that." And I started. But I had great problems doing. I could get up, but every time I got up in drag, I would get so nervous, and they would say, "Well, honey, you need a couple of cocktails in you." So I started drinking alcohol, a lot of it, and I really loved alcohol, because alcohol made me feel like I was not this misfit, because I felt like an alien misfit all my life. And when I got full, it all went away. I thought I was pretty. I was witty and fun, and people liked me. And I said tacky things to people that everybody laughed. They still do. And if you didn't laugh, I'd probably shut up. Anyway, and it's your fault. And so, and that year I met my oldest friend, who died this March of a heart attack, Miss Jennifer, and I met a defrocked Methodist minister who was defrocked because he was gay. And he had a halfway house for wayward drag queens over on Gilbert. And believe me, it was a freak show. And the house has been torn down now. And I met a group of gay minstrel singers. And they were from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they were named the Sugar Plum Fairy. And I became a Sugar Plum Fairy. And they named me Pixie. I don't know why, but they named me Pixie. And my eyebrows came off, and they bleached my hair, and my parents went out of their mind. And so the Sugar Plum Fairies, they were live minstrel. They wrote their own songs, and they were all communists. They all read Mao Zedong's Red Book, and I'm still not into politics, but especially not that. But I love dressing up in outrageous women's clothing and walking down the street at noon. I loved all that. I'm a bit of an exhibitionist, and I remember walking down, and they'd fix my hair and put on my makeup and get into these ball gowns that didn't fit, and these huge ball gowns, all the chiffon, and we would tip down the street all over Oak Lawn. Like I said, it was a freak show, and we drank alcohol and took lots of psilocybin, and we took LSD, and we took THC, and no, that came later, girl. I'll get into that. And I didn't do poppers. That poppers came later, 75, 76, 77. Anyway, and my parents decided, they were so happy when September came around, and they chopped off all my hair and colored it back, and my eyebrows grew back, and they sent me to Arizona to Judson School to get away from all these people. And the people in Judson terrorized me because I was extremely effeminate. I mean, extremely. Not only did I lisp, and a bolt of pink chiffon would fell out of my mouth. I was a mincing, effeminate homosexual, and the boys at school did not like that at all. And my idea, they didn't even like it even more when I was defiant against them and said, I don't know what the big deal is. And I never understood the big deal about being gay or wearing clothes. I don't see the big deal. And against it or whatever. And anyway, they used to beat me up, and I didn't know how to fight then, and I haven't fought in years. But I'll get into that. And so I decided to run away from high school. So I ran away, and the Sugar Plum Fairies were just happening on their way to San Francisco. So I ran away from school and got on that. They drove a lavender school bus with pink triangles all over it. We were met with resistance. And the interior was covered in cheap leopard. It was great. It was great. I love to have a car like that, but it would meet with resistance. Anyway, and so I got to San Francisco, and they all went their separate ways, and I was stuck all alone. I was 18, and everything was illegal at 18. You had to be 21, and here I am in San Francisco, stuck on the school bus, and I have to sober up. I've got 20 years to go. And they found me in San Francisco, and they brought me back to Dallas. And then I went back to Judson and finished the 4 years until 75. And then during the summers, I came home. And during the summers of 72, 73, 74, and 75, and that year I met my oldest friend who died this March of a heart attack, Miss Jennifer. And I met a defrocked Methodist minister who was defrocked because he was gay, and he had a halfway house for wayward drag queens over on Gilbert. And believe me, it was a freak show. And the house has been torn down now. And I met a group of gay minstrel singers. And they were from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they were named the Sugar Plum Fairies. And I became a Sugar Plum Fairy. And they named me Pixie. I don't know why, but they named me Pixie. And my eyebrows came off, and they bleached my hair, and my parents went out of their mind. And so the Sugar Plum Fairies, they were live minstrel. They wrote their own songs, and they were all communists. They all read Mao Zedong's Red Book, and I'm still not into politics, but especially not that. But I love dressing up in outrageous women's clothing and walking down the street at noon. I loved all that. I'm a bit of an exhibitionist, and I remember walking down, and they'd fix my hair and put on my makeup and get into these ball gowns that didn't fit, and these huge ball gowns, all the chiffon, and we would tip down the street all over Oak Lawn. Like I said, it was a freak show, and we drank alcohol and took lots of psilocybin, and we took LSD, and we took THC, and no, that came later, girl. I'll get into that. And I didn't do poppers. That poppers came later, 75, 76, 77. Anyway, and my parents decided, they were so happy when September came around, and they chopped off all my hair and colored it back, and my eyebrows grew back, and they sent me to Arizona to Judson School to get away from all these people. And the people in Judson terrorized me because I was extremely effeminate. I mean, extremely. Not only did I lisp, and a bolt of pink chiffon would fell out of my mouth. I was a mincing, effeminate homosexual, and the boys at school did not like that at all. And my idea, they didn't even like it even more when I was defiant against them and said, I don't know what the big deal is. And I never understood the big deal about being gay or wearing clothes. I don't see the big deal. And against it or what. And anyway, they used to beat me up, and I didn't know how to fight then, and I haven't fought in years. But I'll get into that. And so I decided to run away from high school. So I ran away, and the Sugar Plum Fairies were just happening on their way to San Francisco. So I ran away from school and got on that. They drove a lavender school bus with pink triangles all over it. We were met with resistance. And the interior was covered in cheap leopard. It was great. It was great. I love to have a car like that. But it would meet with resistance. Anyway, and so I got to San Francisco, and they all went their separate ways, and I was stuck all alone. I was 18, and everything was illegal at 18. You had to be 21. And here I am in San Francisco, stuck on the school bus, and it's 8:30. I have to sober up. I've got 20 years to go. And they found me in San Francisco, and they brought me back to Dallas. And then I went back to Judson and finished the 4 years until 75. And then during the summers, I came home. And during the summers of 72, 73, 74, and 75, Jennifer, my oldest friend, and I would live like vampires, and we would cruise the streets. Back then, when in early 70s, when gasoline was 25 cents a gallon, and we would cruise the streets, drinking and drugging and hits of poppers and running around and drag, doing all kinds of vile, despicable things. And lechery. I love that word. And we would. Jennifer did more prostitution than I did, but I did a little bit of it. I thought it was somewhat glamorous. I had been raised on TV and movies and musicals, and I thought the really sleazy, slimy way of life was fun. And I met all kinds of very interesting people. I met a lot of prostitutes, and a lot of drug dealers, and pimps, and murderers. I can't believe some of the people that I used to run around with. They were scum of the earth, and I loved every bit of it. And we used to. It was probably about 78 was really when it started. The downward to hell, I call it. And my alcohol consumption started to rise. When I first started drinking, I'd have a couple of cocktails. And by 1979, I was up to like 10 cocktails a night. And then they would start giving me pills. I love a good pill, don't you? And still do, but they're now called vitamins. But it seemed it was 79. It was 79. Somebody said, I have a drug that everybody's doing now, and what are they? And they're called Quaaludes, and they gave me a Quaalude, and I couldn't handle a Quaalude. They were too strong. And I took a half one the next time, but that didn't. I don't know. And then I was drinking and taking Quaaludes because I had a friend. Of course, my friends had tons of them, and they would smoke marijuana. I didn't really like marijuana because the LSD flashbacks with all those monsters from the id would come flashing back, so I didn't like marijuana. And then we would get high and drunk and take a little speed and drink a little bit more, and then we would go out and do our little drag shows at various clubs. And then after it was over, we'd go hit the streets and make a little extra money. And lipstick modeling, we called it. That's the glamorous word for it. The non-glamorous is giving head for money. And but I was actually pretty picky until I went in. Well, I don't remember. Later on in the evening, I wouldn't remember. I didn't use words like blackout because I didn't know what blackout meant. All right, well, I just don't remember the next morning. And people would call me up and say, "Girl, and tell me all. I found out later they tell me lies. They would make up stories, evil cunts. And they would say, "Oh, you did this, this, and this." I would go, "I can't believe I do that." And they said, "Yeah, you did." And some of it was true, and some of it, well, I don't know. Who am I? I don't remember. So I'm drinking, and I get out of high school in the late 70s, and my life started to sort of go down the tubes a bit, and I decided to go to a psychiatrist. My mother was a great enabler, and she said, "Well, we'll send you a psychiatrist." So I went to a psychiatrist, and he told me that this is in 1981. He told me that if I quit wearing women's clothes and moved to another state and started over, that all my problems would go away. And so I got rid of all the drag, and Miss Jennifer and I decided to move out to California. We went to Hollywood. Not West Hollywood, but Hollywood. And I got a job working for a friend of mine, and I stayed at that job for 3 months. And after that, I said, "To hell with this. This is awful. I hate this." And I packed it up and left Miss Jennifer, who didn't want to move to San Diego. I went to San Diego, and then I was dead broke, and I worked cleaning offices with a friend of mine. And I didn't like that. And after that, I decided to come back to Dallas. And when I got back, I went out one night, and on my 6th cocktail, I fell off the bar stool, filthy, polluted, drunk. And I said, "This cannot happen." Because, when I left Dallas, I was drinking 10, 15 cocktails a night. And these are, of course, small ones. And then when I got back, and then I said to him, I need to get back up to my 13, 14 cocktails a night. And so I started to drink more. And then I would take my regimen of pills, that's when the Valiums started coming in. And then the Plastills started coming in. There was 2 different types of Plastills. There was the little red ones called cherries. They were like 150 milligrams. They didn't do much, but they sort of cut the edge. And then there was a great big green 750 milligrams. And when I went to the doctor to get them, he said, "Don't take more than 3. It could kill you." And I took 6 and nothing happened. And I said, I must have gotten a bad batch. I must have had a bad batch. These don't work. And then I had switched from bourbon and Coke to gin because they told me that I wouldn't get sick. I don't know why I believed that. And they said, "But it will make you crazy." And I said, "Oh, I'm already crazy, so it won't matter." No, not crazy. Gin will make you psychopathic. I promise you. And I started drinking gin. And then I went to the Cruise Inn, which is across the street from where the Cruise Inn now. Well, the Cruise Inn now used to be the service station and the fraternity house, but that's later on. And they gave me one of those iced tea tumblers and said, "This is your glass, and we're going to make your cocktails in this from now on." So I drank out of an iced tea glass, and it was like 2 or 3 shots of gin with a little ice and some 7-Up or whatever, and I would, gin and tonic, I call it, splash of tonic. And I would drink those. And I would drink a lot of those, like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 of those, which translates into 15, 20 cocktails, a quart of gin or more a night, every night, coupled with the Valiums and the speed, and that. Now, with that as a setup, let's get into the horrific stuff. Miss Jennifer and I sort of ran out of money because all this costs a lot of money. And she said, let's steal from people. And I said, well, how are we going to do that, Jenny? She said, she handed me a wrench. She said, you hit them, and I'll take their money watch. Now, I tell it sounds funny, but it is not funny. I don't know how many people I possibly could have killed, because I'm a strong woman. Of course, I was 6'4" and 150 pounds, so I was emaciatedly thin. And of course, I wore black hair, black eyebrows, black lipstick, and black nail polish. I was very scary. It was during the punk period. Remember, they call it Gothic now. They had nothing on me. And I am terribly ashamed of doing that, but I have learned that my greatest asset is my past. I don't rob. I don't roll people anymore. People, and the violence began. It started slowly. But in 81, that's really started. I would be playing pool in drag at the Cruise Inn, and Dale Howard, who owned it originally, I was the only drag queen allowed in there. I was in there because I made evil comments about people he thought was very funny. And I would be playing pool, and some men come up and say, you are the ugliest drag queen I had ever seen in my life. And the idiots would turn around to walk away. Don't ever go to a drag queen and say, you are ugly, and turn around. Really? I'd pick up those pool cues and I would go, and knock them. They would go across the room, and Dale Howard would say, my name was the Dragon Lady. For good reason. And they would say, Dragon, it's time to go home. He's going to come too and kill you. And I would go home. I would go to another bar. There's lots of really slimy places you could go. And I love slimy places. The 8th Day, God. I'm the last this 8th Day. Oh, something happened. There we go. Anyway, and then I had a roommate, and he was an alcoholic too. And one night in 82, late 82, I don't remember, I came out of a blackout. I was just standing there. I don't remember. I remember being in my bedroom like the night before, and the next thing I know, I'm standing in my living room hallway over at River Oaks, where my lair was, and because I was anyway, and then he's on his hands and knees with his hands over his face, and he says, don't hit me again. And here I am with a claw hammer in my hand, and here I am, and he's got blood trickling down from his head, and I have hit, I don't know how hard I hit, but and I dropped the hammer around in my bedroom and locked the door, and I thought, what's going on? What is happening to me? And then another time I came out of a blackout. I don't remember. I came out of a blackout, and there were holes all through the drywall in my apartment. And my knuckles hurt so bad. It turns out I had punched holes in a blackout all over my apartment, and I don't know. And people would say, they say, Dragon, you really shouldn't have hit. Also, the Cruise Inn had glass ashtrays. The reason they don't have glass ashtrays anymore is because of me. I'm sure of it. They were big ashtrays, like were thick and like this. And I love to use them for frisbees. And people would say mean things to me and throw one, and they wham, and I don't know, it's awful, But alcohol and drugs and self-hate and unhappiness, extreme unhappiness, turned into this psychopathic behavior. I'm sure that, and then plus I was dating freaks. I was dating transvestites and dating violent transvestites, and they never hit me. I don't remember them ever hitting me back. And so I am working at a club in February, I guess, of '83 at the Wooden Nickel, where the village station, the Station 4 sits now. And two guys come up to me and they say, you want to go partying next Monday? And I was off on Monday, so I said, okay. And so they came back, they met me at my house on Monday, and they said, before we go to partying, we're both in Alcoholics Anonymous, and we were going to go to a meeting at 11 o'clock. And this is April the 25th, 1983. And they take me to Lambda when it was over on McKinney, where the Voyager Trading Company is now. I have a picture of it. It's dump. And it was a nice place. It was very high-tech, and some of the chairs that are here are still there. And this was at the podium. This is the one I remember. And then, doesn't look that old, does it? Anyway, and I went, and there were people at that 11 o'clock that I remember seeing from the clubs, and I thought you moved away, and I thought you moved away too, and they said no, I sobered up, and Johnny Smart was there. For those who know Johnny Smart, we didn't get along very well then. We like to spit at each other and throw cocktails and stuff like it. We were vile whores. Anyway, and they were very nice to me. They said, we want you to keep coming back. And I thought they really meant it. They did mean it, but I thought, I was such a hateful whore that I really thought, because up to that point, friends had called me up and said, Bruce, we don't want you calling us anymore. We don't want to be your friend. What you did last week, like I remember what I did, and my parents said, we don't want you coming over here unless you absolutely have to. And lots of my friends had told me to go away. Don't call, especially at 4 in the morning. Like I remember calling at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I started coming to Lambda and the 11 o'clocks. And I was coming there because it was social. It didn't dawn on me, not a drop. And I was sitting on April the 29th, which is your sponsor's birthday, because we both had shared the original birthday. And I was sitting at the 11 o'clock, and the light bulb went off in my head. And I realized that I wasn't there out of perchance, I saw the writing on the wall. I had like a vision or something, and I saw myself, and everything put together, and I realized that I was an alcoholic. It all made perfect sense. And I started listening to people talk about their past, about blackouts and all their violence and what they used to do and all of that. And I realized that God had placed me at Lambda. Now, I stayed sober for 3 months, and it was a wonderful time. We'd go to 11 o'clock, so we'd go out and drink coffee all night, and I would get too wired. I never drank coffee. I drank gin. And get so high on coffee, you'd hallucinate, and smoke cigarettes, and I was as neurotic as an inbred poodle. my medicine has been taken away and I am raw. I'm sort of and all that. And I had all my friends who helped me, and we all of this. And you know, I did an initial inventory, and I did third step prayer. I was crazy, and I did a fourth step, but I really never did the third step. You know, I didn't trust God. I thought God would get me. And it took me a long time. And being in the program and not drinking alcohol and having the spiritual bombarding that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous to newcomers, and we hear it constantly, and I didn't trust God. I didn't know what to do, and I knew that I had to do step 3 or I was going to drink again. But I couldn't do step 3 because somehow in my mind that God had me do something that I couldn't do, like be straight. You know, somehow, because I was so homophobic that I thought that God would really rather have me straight than gay and not wear women's clothes or I don't know. I was totally insane. And one night I was in my bed and I was about to surrender. And I said finally to hold up my arms, and very dramatic because I'm very dramatic. And I said, okay, whatever you want, I will do. And if you want me to be straight, you're going to have to make me want pussy because, honey, it ain't going to happen. I need a miracle here. And I said this, and I said, I'll do whatever you want. As long as I cannot go on this way. And I finally surrendered, and I did surrender. And that was at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember when. And I went to sleep. I felt scared. I went to sleep. 9 o'clock the next morning, one of my closest friends, who was a dressmaker, called me up and said, last night I was sleeping and I woke up abruptly at 3 o'clock in the morning and decided to make you your new dress. And I made your new dress. And this is it. And it was a sign from God. I said, 3 o'clock? And he said, yeah, I've already made it. I've already rhinestoned it, too. He was a talented whore. He's dead now. But, and I miss him. And I knew then it was okay not only to be gay, but it was okay to wear women's clothes or whatever I wanted. It was okay to do whatever I wanted to do except the stuff that I did when I was drinking, like roll people. I don't roll people no more. And I don't hit people anymore. I'd like to. But I don't like making amends. And you know, when that happened, how long do I have? What time is it?
As long as you want.
Oh, good. Well, I can do that. And then the years roll by. That's a nice thing. The years roll by. Don't they? The years roll by in sobriety. Inventories. I start working the program. I started working. I surrendered. I started praying. I started working the program. And all kinds of good things happened. And and then I entered drag pageants and lost. And entered the Miss 8 Day and won. And I'm still a Miss 8 Day. That was 1988. I was 5 years sober. And then I started doing pageants and drag shows and all that. And about 1991, I guess it was, or 92, I decided I didn't want to drag anymore, really. I was tired of it, and I wanted a boyfriend. And I decided that I had to be something different than I was. I always think about that. I don't know why I have to be different than I am. And so I joined a gym. I joined the Centrum Gym. And I started lifting weights, and I had gained a few pounds. I'd gotten up to about 240, which is about where I am now. And I started lifting weights, and I started pumping up and losing weights, and got a trainer and all that. But the problem is that I still have low self-esteem, and there's nothing wrong with leather. There's nothing wrong with leather. I got into leather. I pierced both my nipples, and I had my dick pierced, and got the tattoos, and they're all still there. And I don't believe in mincing words. You know, I try to be as honest as I can. If you can't handle my honesty, too bad. And call your sponsor. And I stopped going to meetings. And I started doing what a lot of people do, is I started sponsoring myself. Because I thought, I can do this. I know a lot about alcohol. Now I can sponsor myself. And I started sponsoring myself. It does not work. And I got real heavy into SM. I'll just tell you that right now. And I got into a lot of really kinky, really disgusting stuff that I won't go into here. I could shock you, but I'm not going to. And you can get the point. And but I tell you what, fisting and goes along with methamphetamines, and it was a choice between speed and no speed. It was not. And self-destruction. You see, my nature is to self-destruct. That's mine. Given that I will go insane and self-destruct, and I quit doing all that. And I called up Gary Green. I said, I am insane, and I am going to drink. And he said, yes, we know. You know, my friends, we can see you go insane, but we're not going to say anything until you ask for help. When you ask for help, we'll go, yeah, we can help you. And I did. I started back like a newcomer again. But I didn't drink. I just didn't want to go there. I did not want to die drunk. I do not want to die drunk. And I started the program again, in earnest, and all that. And he sponsored me, Gary Green. We did all 12 steps again. And I started even getting more into the spirituality of it and meditation and all that. And then when Gary moved away, I asked Charlie Stewart 3 years ago to sponsor me, and it's been a wonderful 3 years. It's been very funny. We get together and talk about you. And he's dead now. He can't rebuttal. And I go on. What time? It's over now, isn't it? But if you get together with me, I will tell you all kinds of good opinions I have about Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous works if you work it. If you don't work the 12 steps, it doesn't work. You're going to drink again. Sorry. And that's just the way it is. Give you all the meetings in the world, but it ain't going to keep you sober. You got to work the 12 steps. And I work the 12, at least I try to work the damn 12 steps. Sometimes I hate it so much. And other times I love it. And I love Alcoholics Anonymous. It has saved my ass. And I wanted to talk about so much. Could we make these into 2 hours long? Anyway, I'm glad to be here, and thank you, and have a good time.